In this video, I'm going to break down the back extension core endurance test. This test measures the muscular endurance of your core and more specifically of your low back. You can find this test in many different services when you go through application, which is why we make sure that it's a part of your program. More specifically, in policing, this is a part of the fitness pin and it'll be 20% of that final fitness pin mark. The scoring sheet that we use for this test is taken directly from the fitness pin. So I'll link those scoring sheets down below just so you have another reference. In the video, I'm going to break down how you're going to set up properly for this test, how you're going to assess it, and then I'll give you some common errors that we see that hopefully you won't make in the test. And then at the end, I'll give you some ideas of how to train to be more successful. For this test, you will need a bench, a bed, or a coffee table. You'll then find the very top of your hip bones, that iliac crest, and you're going to line it up right with the edge of your bench, bed, or ottoman. Then you're going to have somebody to assist you. I have my husband coming in to sit on my calves and hang on to my hamstrings to anchor me in place. My arms cross over my chest, and I maintain a straight line right from my head to my hips. If I dip below this parallel line, you'll see me dip down, I have one chance to come back up to that straight line. If I dip down again, that would be the end of my test. Now I'll highlight a couple common errors that we see. The first error is the setup. So you can see that I'm way too far back and my ribs are in line with the edge instead of my hips. This is way too easy and this will not count in your test. The second error that we see, I'll just adjust my hips back up to the edge, is having the person sit in the wrong spot so that you're not properly anchored. That doesn't quite work. So just make sure you're seated on the calves and then putting pressure either on the hamstrings or the feet. The next error we see is the placement of the arms. So they do have to be across your chest. We often see behind the head or looped behind your back. Those won't count. They have to be in that cross position. The next one is holding in an unparalleled position. So you have to be up completely parallel. If you are dipped down like this, that won't count. Here are a few exercises you can do to help you train for this test. So the first few here are with no equipment. So I'm doing a Superman, holding at that top position, squeezing my glutes, my hamstrings, and my low back. The next one is an alternating Superman, similar position, alternating my leg and arm, holding at the top and squeezing. The next exercise I'm moving into is a plank. Planks are a great way to train for this test. Maintaining that strong core for a long amount of time is very similar to the test itself. Make sure that you're really pulling that belly button in so that you're keeping that parallel form. Moving now into a tabletop position, pulling in my core, alternating my arm and leg to work that low back. These movements are very slow, very controlled. Try to make sure you're not tipping from one side to the other, so really pulling everything in your midline tight. I'll now come to a standing position to do a single leg Romanian deadlift. If you don't have equipment at home, working one leg at a time is a great way to add a little more challenge and a little more resistance. So I'm hinging from my hip, coming down till I feel a stretch in my hamstring. I'll just do a couple reps on each leg. So you're just bending forward until you feel that slight pull in the back of your leg and coming forward to squeeze your glutes to finish. If you do have equipment, I've thrown in some exercises that you can add to your program. I'm using a barbell, but you can sub a lot of these out for dumbbells or whatever you might have. So the first move you can do is just a conventional deadlift. So again, working that whole posterior chain, the whole backside of my body is working, hinging from my hips, barbell comes down, slight bend in my knee, coming up to a full stand. If you find that the conventional deadlift is a little bit too much on your back, or maybe you just have very long legs, you can sumo your deadlift. So my legs are wider. The stance is then a little bit different and a little less on your low back, but still going to be working that backside of your body. pulling everything tight, loading up, and nice and controlled on the way down. The next move is a Romanian deadlift. So I'm going to lift the bar using a regular conventional deadlift. From the top now, I'm going to focus on the hip hinge. So the bar stays close to my body. I hip hinge back. Legs stay mostly straight, just a slight athletic bend. Going back till I feel a nice stretch in my hamstrings and then coming all the way up to squeeze my glutes. So another way to do this exact same movement, so my hip hinge is going to be the same, you can just load the bar instead on the back. So if you can, load dumbbells or kettlebells, or if you have a rack, or just get your barbell onto your back. This is called a good morning. The movement though is similar. You can tell that I'm just hinging from my hips, keeping my core really strong so that when I'm back, my whole back is in a complete straight line. My hamstrings are loaded. And then I'm bringing my hips all the way back up. All right, guys, that was your back extension core endurance test. Just remember that you will need to have a stopwatch or a device of some sort that we can see that shows how long you're going for. The 100% for men and women is 3 minutes. So that is the max that we'll need to see. So if you can go longer than 3 minutes, that's awesome, but you don't need to send me a video longer than that. And that's it. If you have any other questions or concerns about this test, or you're struggling and you just want some more ideas on how to train and be more successful, I'm always happy to help. Just shoot me an email.